I'm going to read from a prepared statement, and then I'm going to share some personal thoughts at the end. Hello, I'm John, and you may already know me from the videos I created discussing the social, financial, and legal crises that exist for men. My intention then was to help men understand the problems we face, where they started, and how they are used to manipulate men. I created hundreds of videos that were viewed by men millions of times. That effort, which lasted less than a year, was a huge success. Men frequently contacted me to express how isolated they felt prior to watching my videos and how they developed a new sense of self that was acceptable, removing the negative stigma that was forced on them. I have returned to YouTube to take real steps toward corrective actions as well as educate and inform. Through video presentations, a lot was learned, but I was constantly asked, what comes next? While education and fellowship is critical, there needs to be real action taken. We have identified that men are coerced and manipulated into accepting a belief system that is against our very nature. Once we realize this control exists in its myriad of forms, we have to make a choice to allow it or make changes on our own behalf. As men collectively, we see the need to create an organization to defend masculinity, just as we individually made changes in our personal lives to repel the antagonistic forces working against us. But in this struggle, there is an egregious move being made against us that mere individual action cannot stop. And that is the control of our individual thoughts through censorship, political correctness, and statutory regulation. The Society for Men's Freedom is being created because we are on the precarious edge of enslavement as men. YouTube and the media in general has recently begun implementing its most onerous censoring efforts ever. We have a short window in which to unite as men and implement an agenda that will halt our oppression under feminism. Failure to do anything will allow feminism to continue its assault on political free speech and its assault on our wealth. We already pay heavily into the welfare state, which distributes freely to women and ignores men's needs. Men are paying exorbitantly high health insurance premiums since women who use more health services cannot be charged more. There are multitudinous other examples across the political and social spectrums that we could refer to. This is income redistribution, a major Marxist plank, and feminism is forever making new demands on men in this fashion. As men, we have been told that we are the equal of women. Simultaneously, we have been told that we must pay the lion's share and sacrifice ourselves without question or complaint. This is self-evident in the taxes we pay, as well as the silencing of men's speech through coercive political correct social paradigms, legislative restrictions, and court rulings that continue to punish and destroy men in divorce court. Ask any man who has been victimized in this process, and you will hear a story of destruction and sorrow. In severe cases, the most severe, men have been reduced to abject poverty, job loss, personal destruction, finding themselves homeless, and often committing suicide. For many men, this is a recitation of known facts. For other men, this information will come as a shock. There is a powerful indoctrination system in place operating via the education system, entertainment and news media, and legal legislative processes. Currently, there is no effective men's organization in place that is addressing men's issues. Men need to continue to individually educate other men and speak freely against political and feminist organizations and precepts that are offensive to the masculine mind and masculine nature. At the same time, it is more apparent with each passing day that individual efforts are neither halting nor even slowing the progress of censorship and the oppression of men under feminism, which are foreign to our history, traditions, cultures, and intuitive senses as men. Censorship not only affects our ability to speak individually, it affects men's ability to hear alternative concepts. If we hear nothing but indoctrination, how can men come to their own conclusions? Censorship is especially insidious when we discuss men's ability to find philosophical and logical arguments about the disposition of their status in society and the legal responsibilities foisted upon them through the myriad of controls and socio-legal nexus. We as masculine men know instinctively that there is a problem. But discovering that problem through rational discussion will become impossible, as free speech is first censored socially and ultimately made illegal through statute. The process of incremental destruction of rights was begun long ago. Today it is impossible to ignore both its effects and the course it is taking. Soon, if men do not adequately address this problem, it will overwhelm and silence them permanently. Their fates will be that of slaves to the political, social dogma of feminism. The reason, as men see it, that free speech is critical is that the mind cannot operate without it. Words form sentences, sentences form thoughts, and through the thought process, the logical mind develops philosophy. The concept of free speech is abhorrent to feminists. They want opposition silenced so that only indoctrination exists under their system of control. If we do not have information gathered through free speech, our minds are only operating on the program, the feminist indoctrination system. That program denies the mind additional information that would argue against feminism's insidious implantation methodology. A mind that has no free thoughts is no longer a mind, but is only that of an automaton, a robot. A robot, in this sense, can only regurgitate what it has been programmed with. That is the direct threat to your freedom as a man. Feminist women are not the enemy. They are the tools used to individually confront and confound men. To understand how to safely navigate this world, men need a comprehensive understanding of all the social controls, legal restraints, and knowledge of their underlying personal psychological weaknesses. For years, men going their own way and traditionally masculine men have engaged and debated against the corrosive and destructive machinations by speaking through educational, social media platforms, and public venues. Adherents of feminism have stopped public speaking events by violently protesting and assaulting attendees. Now, internet providers and social media platforms like YouTube and Google are being encouraged, practically required, to silence the voices of men in blatant and unapologetic acts of censorship worldwide. There are few choices and only one solution for men. We can either surrender to feminism's demands and be shamed into compliance, which many men have sorrowfully done, or we can oppose feminism. The individual voices of brave men have used YouTube and other media platforms to educate men and recruit them to the ranks of individual thought, choice, and personal freedom. With censorship moving quickly to silence these speakers of fundamental philosophies, there is one direction left to men. While we are still able to oppose individual censorship, an organization must be formed that represents such a significant number of men that it cannot be characterized or dismissed as a radical subgroup or an insignificant number of disenfranchised men. The political positions that the Society for Men's Freedom will publicly use will be rooted in fact, sound philosophy, and must be passionately supported by the organization's members. The Society for Men's Freedom has been created to fill that chasm that exists between the radicalized social programs of feminism and the needs of men collectively, which are its antithesis. The time-tested concepts of tradition and culture have been corrupted, marginalized, and altered to reflect the prejudice and bias of feminism. By mischaracterizing the legitimate purposes, accomplishments, and very existence of masculine men, feminism has made the term masculinity negative. Through this false association, being a masculine man is presented as an existence to be shamed and removed from the face of all cultures and societies worldwide. The bastardization of masculinity is the source of men's confusion, dissatisfaction, and shame. Feminism has so deeply affected men and women through its precepts that men and women are finding it more difficult than ever to have lasting relationships. This program has multitudinous ramifications for us today. Men are being blamed for refusing to have relationships in which they are required to carry the burden of support, as well as blamed for dissolution and divorce, and then forced to pay the subsequent financial penalties. There is no alternative model by which men can live that is not met by guilt and shame for the choice. The feminist mainstream social model requires marriage, and men are told to hope for the best but expect the worst, since divorce rates have soared past 50%. This problem, and many others beside, can be addressed through careful consideration. Without organization and a unified understanding of the problems, men will be silenced through censorship, continue to be indoctrinated by a corrupt educational and media system, and shamed by society for failing to follow its failed model of legal marriage and blind obedience. Sitting in front of a camera and complaining about this system is woefully short of solving the problem. More direct action is required before censorship silences the bold opposition voices. I am stepping up again. I am stepping up again, and I propose that we educate and dispute the feminist dogma individually and collectively. Unite in order to fully address the means and methods of misandry, which is the hatred of men and masculinity. There is much more to discuss regarding the Society for Men's Freedom and its goals, means, and processes. There is much more to learn about the vast subjects of feminism's control, the various ways masculinity is under vicious attack, and how men can oppose these destructive methods and find satisfaction and comfort through living within our natural inclinations. I am here to call on you to join me at the Society for Men's Freedom. It takes an intelligent man to see the problems we face. It takes a courageous man to do something about it. Together, as both intelligent and brave men, we can build an organization that will properly represent and defend men, who are not only independent and individuals that are dynamic, but are also unified in their opposition to being emasculated for the benefit of feminist ideology. Go to Patreon, the Society for Men's Freedom, and subscribe. There I will reveal the steps that are being taken and how we will protect our freedoms as men. I am back on YouTube. When I was banned or barred on the other channel I had, I was very upset. But already steps were being taken. Already I had been contacted by many, shall we say, influential men who wanted to do more, who wanted to go the next step. While they enjoyed and agreed with, supported men going their own way, there needed to be a next step. And I was already working on that. It is for that reason that I think I was singled out relatively early in the process of censoring masculine men's voices. It's for that reason they wanted me off the air. I have not been sitting about idly doing nothing. There has been planning on a daily basis, phone calls, emails, and a discussion about what steps need to be taken, and also the consequences of failure to do anything. So please join me over on Patreon. I'll put the link down below. There's not going to be a lot of videos put out on YouTube. Most of the work, the bulk of the work and discussion is going to be over at Patreon. There'll be an introductory video there, and we will go from there. I want to thank you guys for watching, for considering what it is I have to say, and for trying to look forward into the future to see the threats that we face as men. I'll see you at Patreon.